Hi, good morning, everyone. Right, am I audible at the back? Yeah. Okay. Not the आगे वालों से नहीं पूछा था, पीछे वालों से पूछा था. Anyway, so my name is Jatin, and I will be taking the classes for Indian Constitution and Polity. We'll have around about 40 to 42 classes, depends on how the pace of the batch goes. That's usually the number of classes that we have been having for the batches last year. But let's see, because there is a lot of content upgradation and a few other things also that happen, and we'll have to see how the pace of the batch goes. And as of now, of course, the batch size seems to be pretty huge, and it will be interesting to see what the numbers are in a few days. Anyway, so I welcome you all to Vision IS and welcome you to the classes on Indian polity and constitution. A few things before we begin talking about the subject and before we actually delve deeper into the area of constitutional law. First and foremost, I always say this to anyone who's starting the preparation that you must feel proud of yourself, and I congratulate all of you for taking this step to prepare for the civil services examination. The reason why I say that is because I personally believe that the education in India to a certain extent is incomplete, because whatever you may have studied in your graduation, or some of you may even be undergoing graduation at this point of time, the problem that we see in the education is that you only get perspective of your own subject, and you are not able to relate the development of your subject or your subject with a number of other subjects and perspectives. And that perspective is something which is very important. Let's say if you are an engineer, until and unless you understand geography, until and unless and you understand the societal problems which are faced in India, you would not be a good engineer, simply because you would be making solutions which do not really need or solve the problems of the society. Or until unless you do not understand the geography, if you are a civil engineer, you are making some house, or you are constructing some dam, or you are doing any kind of work, you may not be able to do it at the best of your capacity if you do not understand what the soil conditions are like, what the geographic conditions are like, etc., and all of those things. So the civil services examination preparation gives you that complete edge. It overall rounds your entire education. That is what I believe what this examination gives you. If we talk about the kind of syllabus that we'll be touching upon in all the classes, you will be understanding not just about the Indian constitution, Indian law, you would understand a bit about the Indian politics as well. You would be able to understand what all is happening in the country. You'd be able to relate things to the societal happenings. You'd be able to understand the Indian geography. You would understand Indian history, not the one which is available on the WhatsApp and the forwards of the WhatsApp and social media, but the authentic Indian history. And of course, there are multiple versions of history, and there are always multiple ways of looking at the same event. You would get that perspective as well. We necessarily would not load you with our ideology, or necessarily would not load you with our ideas alone, but we would try to give you that kind of a platform where you yourself become capable to decide what is correct and what is wrong. You would get a really good understanding of the Indian economy as well, and general economics and how the economy functions. You would develop a very good understanding of international relations. How does India conduct its relations with the other countries? What are the difficulties that we face as far as our diplomatic relations with other countries are concerned? You would also understand societal problems. You would understand the world history. You would understand a lot about the French Revolution, the American Revolution, what happened during the First World War, the Second World War, the aftermath of the Second World War, the Cold War, and what has been the reason for the tensions that we see between Iran and United States of America, tensions between Iran and Israel, tensions between India and Pakistan, and so many other things. Not just that, but you would also get a really good perspective of the internal security issues of India as well. Problems such as Naxalism, problems such as insurgency in the northeast. What has been the reason for the emergence of these particular problems? How do we tackle these problems? what has been the approach of government of India to tackle these problems. You would understand about the disaster management techniques, because India is prone to so many natural disasters. How does one deal with those natural disasters? What is our strategy? What are the shortcomings in our approach to deal with the natural disasters in India? You would develop a very good perspective of philosophy as well. You would understand that how you look at a particular situation where you are in a dilemma, whether I should do this or whether I should do that, with the help of the views of moral thinkers and philosophers in ethics, integrity, and aptitude. You would get an understanding of how do you solve real world problems, which would be taught to you in the case studies. So there is a lot to learn as far as this exam preparation is concerned. One thing that I always say at the beginning of the preparation for this exam to anyone and to everyone is that when you are preparing for this exam, look at this entire preparation as a journey and not necessarily look at some destination where you have to reach. The reason for that is because, as you can see, there are so many of you, those who are sitting here, and every year the number of candidates appearing in the exam is going up. And let's say if 10 lakh students or 10 lakh candidates are appearing in the exam every year, only 1000 people are getting selected, which basically means that a selection ratio of 1:1000. That is, out of 1000, only one person would get selected. So there is a possibility that out of all of you sitting here and all of the students, those who are attending the classes online, none of you would get selected in the exam, right? That is the kind of possibility, probability which we are looking at this exam. This is not to dishearten you the first day itself and to tell you that, see, it's very difficult. This is not to make you feel inferior in any way, but this is just to give you a reality check of what this exam is like. What I mean to say is that you cannot focus on the results. You cannot focus on trying to become an IAS officer or trying to do something specifically. Reason for that is because a number of things in this exam are beyond your control. You would not be able to control the results. There are so many things which can go wrong. See, in exam where 10 lakh people are appearing and only 1000 are going to get selected, probability is 1:1000. That is 0.01%. The probability of you getting hit when you are moving on the road is much more than getting selected in this exam. That is what the numbers are. So the odds are stacked against you. You must understand that. Now, in that situation, if I were in your position, I would not think about the results. I would not think about that I have to do this or I have to do that and all of that and create unnecessary pressure on myself. What I would do is that I would focus on the process of learning. Try to become a better version of myself every day. That is what you should try to think of. That every day when I go back home, every day when I go to bed to sleep, I should be able to look into the mirror and tell myself that I have learned something worthwhile today. My day was worthwhile. I have added some value to myself. That is what you should be looking at. It should be a daily process where every step that you take, every day is a step. Every step that you take should be constructive. Every step that you take should add more value to yourself. Right? If you look at the exam in that with that approach, I think you would be in a much more better, or I would say in a better mental state as compared to a lot of other candidates, those who tend to take unnecessary pressure of the expectations of the results of what is going to happen if I'm not going to qualify, what is going to happen if I'm going to qualify, instead of focusing on those unnecessary details which are beyond your control, which are not in your hands. I would suggest that you focus on what you can do. And what you can do is not that you can work hard for 1 year. Working hard for 1 year is a very difficult task. Working hard for 2 years is a very difficult target to set for yourselves. Working hard even for and telling yourself that I'm going to work hard for next 6 months itself can be a very intimidating and a difficult task for a lot of people. Some of you may be able to cope up with that pressure, but not all of you, and most of you would not be, because that's how we human beings are designed. If someone was to tell me that you need to do this over next 1 year, possibly I would find it very difficult. But if someone was to tell me that you have to do this for next 24 hours, and then after 24 hours, if someone was to tell, then you again need to do this for next 24 hours, I think that would be much easier. So set shorter targets for yourselves instead of setting a longer target of 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years. Set a shorter target for yourself that should be slightly more immediate. That should be a daily target, that should be a weekly target, nothing more than that. Possibly you can, of course, you need to have a plan, which should be month-wise plan and an annual plan, but your target, immediate target should be daily or a weekly or a fortnightly target, nothing more than that, because that is what is going to keep you motivated enough. Otherwise, the biggest problem that I see with all the candidates appearing in this exam is that they lose motivation very quickly. And let me tell you, there is no medicine that is available in the market which can make you feel more motivated. No, there is no treatment which is available in the market which will tell you that you can become more motivated. A lot of times students come to me and they say that, sir, you please motivate us. I'll motivate you. But the point is that it has to come from within. And that can only happen once you start getting a hang of things. So first, build a base. First, focus on being disciplined. First, focus on building a habit to study. Many of you may not be in the habit of reading. Many of you may not be in the habit of sitting down for a few minutes, forget few hours, and to study at a continuous stretch. First, develop that habit. Instead of trying to focus on कि मैं IAS officer बनूंगा या IPS officer बनूंगी तो क्या होगा, there is no point of unnecessarily focusing on those particular details. Right? So that's the first advice which I give to everyone. Do not be intimidated by the examination and the results and what happens after the results and what happens if you do not get through prelims, what happens if you do not get through mains, this, that, and everything. Just put all of that aside. Just focus on what is supposed to be done in the next 24 hours. Right? One thing that I can assure you is that once you walk out of this process, once you are done with these classes, once you are done preparing for this exam, whether you are successful or unsuccessful in this exam, I can tell you that you would be a much better placed person in life generally. I have worked extensively in different organizations over my entire professional career of 13 years. And I can tell you one thing very confidently, that whenever I have encountered any person who has appeared in the civil services examination, I have always found them more suitable for any kind of job, any kind of appointment. I must have conducted at least 5,000 interviews in last 13 years, maybe even more, for different positions where I have hired people or I have hired people on behalf of someone. And I can tell you that I have always found that those who have been civil services aspirants in the past have a better understanding of things, are better placed as compared to others, simply because you would have more exposure, simply because you would be able to understand and analyze issues from multiple perspectives and not just from what you have been taught in school or college. So therefore, I always believe that this examination is a life-changing examination. Not because once you get into the services, then you would get a Lal Batti ka gadi. That's not what I'm talking about. But this examination itself would expose you to such ideas, to such beliefs, to such thoughts, to such opinions, which you may have never been exposed to. So therefore, be a curious learner. Be someone who's always willing to learn on a daily basis. And believe me, even if you don't do well in this examination, once you are out of the cycle of this examination, you would look back at this period at this time and you would say that that was one of the best time of my life when I got to learn a lot. And that also brings me to the point that since you people are now appearing in the exam and many of you must be just only preparing for the exam, I think this is the golden phase. I think there can be nothing better than that. If your finances and if the other things in life are taken care of and you have been given this opportunity to just come here and read and study and learn and to grow and to become a better person, then there is nothing better than this. Because believe me, when you get back to your life in terms of either joining a job or doing some business or doing anything else, you would not be able to find so much time to learn on a daily basis. This is what this exam gives you. It gives you that opportunity to grow leaps and bounds in a very short time. I always say that the kind of preparation that you people would be doing, you would almost be touching the in fact, you would be touching the bachelor levels of all the subject. So whether it is history, whether it is geography, whether it is economy, whether it is polity, it's almost as if you have done a bachelor in all of them once you are done with the preparation of this exam in a thorough manner. And optional, is somewhere in between master's and bachelor level. So in a way, you would be getting almost 5 to 6 degrees, if at all degrees matter. You would be not officially or formally, but you would have the knowledge, accumulated knowledge, understanding, conceptual clarity of almost 5 to 6 degrees by the end of the preparation of this examination. So therefore, I congratulate all of you for taking this decision, because at times it's very difficult to take this leap of faith. I know a lot of candidates, they have been brought up in such families, or they have been brought up with such a mindset that you have to give this exam, and they also start thinking from a very young age that I have to give this exam, etc., and all of those things. But what tends to happen is that we focus too much on just the exam and forget about the entire paraphernalia about around the exam. So focus on learning, focus on becoming a better version of yourself every day, and you would definitely not regret taking this step. It's very difficult at times for people. If some of you may have quit jobs, some of you may have let go of opportunities to take up lucrative positions or jobs. Some of you may have given up offers to go to some universities for your masters. Some of you may have decided not to join family businesses or to do a number of other things. You must have forgone a lot to come here. Make sure that the decision that you have taken for yourself, you stay true to it. Because a lot of times I find that candidates arrive here because their family or someone in the family sent them here, but they are not really here because of themselves. You should first find the reason from within, that why do you want to be here? And that reason could be something as simple as that I want to get away from the home and I want to be away from the college education and I want to be learning, or I want to be learning newer subjects, or I want to develop different perspective of things. That could be as simple as that, or it could be that I really want to become an IAS officer and I want to serve the society. Whatever be the reason, ask yourself the reason. There is no right or wrong reason. If you are having the reason कि मेरे को IAS officer बनना है इसलिए मैं यहाँ पे आया हूँ, ठीक है. अगर आपका रीजन ये है कि मुझे बस सीखना है, अभी देखेंगे IAS बन गए तो बन गए, नहीं बने तो नहीं बने, दैट इज ऑल्सो फाइन. उसके बीच में, इस पूरे कंटिन्यूम के बीच में, इफ एनीवेयर यू फॉल, it is perfectly fine, but find your own reason. Do not try to find an external reason for preparing for this examination. Right? So those are some of the things which I always say to the candidates, those who are just beginning the preparation. And since this is the first day for you people here, and many of you are coming from all different backgrounds, from science, from humanities, from commerce, from medicine, engineering, this, that, everything, you must understand one more thing. Try to learn from others as well. The maximum learning in life happens not from books. Maximum learning in life happens not from our own experiences as well, because our own experiences are very limited. We have just 60-70 years to live. How much can we learn through our own experiences? It's always through the experiences of others that we learn the maximum, that we learn the most. So therefore, when you are in this environment, make friends here. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've made friends and then that is the only thing that you are doing. Make friends, right? Make a support group for yourself. It should not be done the first day. Over a period of time, over a period of month, try to find like-minded people. Try to find people whom you can sit with, have a talk with, share your problems with, listen to their problems. It's very important to have that support system. Many of you must be very far away from home. Many of you must be from Delhi only or from nearby towns, and you would be traveling up and down to your place every day after the classes. But try to build a support system for yourself here, simply because it can get very lonely. It can get very difficult in this examination at times. So you need friends. You need people whom you can fall back on and who can fall back on you when they are in a difficult situation. Because this examination is a lot about mental fitness, is a lot about your attitude. And that is something which can only stay positive when you have people around, those who are ready to support you, and when you are ready to support them. You cannot expect it to be a one-way relationship, that someone else will support me but I will not support them. You would have to also be for there at all the times, and they would have to be for you at all the times. That is how friendships work. So try to make good friendships here. Try to learn from others. Be respectful towards others. This probably may be first time for many of you that you are studying in such huge group, where you are interacting with people from all the parts of India. You would have people from Rajasthan, you would have people from Tamil Nadu, you will have people from Nagaland, you will have people from Gujarat, you will have people from all the parts of the country with all the different backgrounds. Try to learn, try to be observant. No, don't try to show you or to show what you are or who you are, but rather try to learn about others first. Be more respectful, and believe me, you would be a better person. Right? At the end of all of this, ultimately, your objective should not only be to become a civil servant, but should be to become a good civil servant. It should be to become a good citizen of this country who contributes to the well-being of the society, who contributes to the growth of the country, and is not a burden on the society. That is what you should aim for. Right? So with those words, I congratulate all of you for taking this decision, which can be very intimidating at times, to appear in this examination in the first place. As far as preparation is concerned, we will talk about that. We will discuss that what should be the strategy, how you should be going about preparing the subjects, and what should be the approach, etc. And you must also understand, Rome was not built in a day, and so would you not be, right? So it would take time for you as well to understand the concepts, to build an understanding of the exam. Do not be in a hurry to learn everything on the first day, or in the first week, or in the first month. It's a process. There are people, those who are slow learners as well. I personally believe that I have been a slow learner all my life. I have always been told by my parents that take time, it's fine to slow down and to learn, rather than to be in a hurry and then to make mistakes. So therefore, there is no hurry here. It does not mean that you should say कि अच्छा आज 4 घंटे पढ़ना है, कल पढ़ लेंगे. Sir said no hurry. That's not what I am saying. Right? What I am saying is that do not build unnecessary pressure on yourself. अगर आज कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, अगर आज कुछ मुश्किल लग रहा है, तो उसको छोड़ दीजिएगा, कल फिर वापस उठाइएगा. अगर कल नहीं समझ में आया तो फिर परसों उठाइएगा. बट कांस्टेंट स्ट्रगल करना नहीं छोड़ना है हमें. बट एट द सेम टाइम प्रेशर भी नहीं बनाना है अपने ऊपर. दैट व्हाट इफ अगर ये समझ में नहीं आया तो क्या होगा, इसको तो ये समझ में आ गया, साथ वाले को पता चल गया. इट इज ओके. Everyone has their own pace of learning. Adjust to that. That is something which is very, very important. So let's begin our discussion. I'll just take you through a few things about the syllabus and about the sources and a whole lot of other things as far as Indian polity and constitution is concerned. And then we will okay, so as I said, we'll be having around 42 classes for Indian polity and constitution, and 42 classes. I will tell you what is the coverage of the topics which we'll be doing in the classes. There may be a few topics which I will tell you that you need to probably make an effort on your own to read that, because many of these topics will be very factual in nature, and there is not a lot of analysis, or there is not a lot of discussion that is supposed to happen. So first, a few things about me, because a lot of you must be thinking who this individual is standing in front of us and saying all these things for last 20 minutes. So my name is Jatin. I am an engineer and a lawyer by education. And just like you, I also appeared for this examination. When I was growing up in my younger years, when I was in grade 6th, my dad used to get me this magazine called as the Competition Success Review. I used to tell him, he used to work with the government, and I used to tell him that you please get that magazine from the office library. And I used to read it, and I grew up thinking that I would want to get into the administrative services. I appeared in the examination just like you people are appearing now. And I gave 6 attempts. I made it to 4 personality tests. I gave 4 interviews as well. Fortunately for you, unfortunately for me possibly, I was not able to make it to the merit list. Why I say fortunately for you is because you should feel glad that you are being taught by me. Anyway, but jokes apart, so anyway, I appeared in this examination. My optional was public administration and geography. In the first attempt, back in 2012, we used to have 2 optionals in the exam. After that, the pattern was changed in 2013, and then I gave it with geography. And more about my attempt and what are the mistakes, etc., that I made later. But that's pretty much about my journey as far as civil services exam is concerned. I have also worked extensively in the development sector. I began my professional career working for a management consulting firm. After that, I quit my job. I decided that I want to give a shot at the civil services examination. When I came here, Delhi is my hometown. I've been born and brought up here in Rajendra Nagar in Karol Bagh. That's where I've gone for my schooling as well. I've spent my entire childhood here and know the back lanes and the alleys of Rajendra Nagar and Karol Bagh like the back of my hand. So I've spent my entire childhood here. And then in 2012, when I gave my first attempt, when I made it to the interview also in that first attempt, I decided that I am not going to be only giving this exam, because I thought that this is too much of a time investment that I am making at this stage of my life. So I started working with a few NGOs. I worked with a number of development sector organizations, headed the state relationships for a few organizations, and worked along with the government as well, especially in the area of vocational education, in the area of skill development, in the area of youth engagement. Worked with a few state governments, Andhra Pradesh government, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Punjab. Led the teams there, worked there, got bored, then finished my law from Delhi University. After that, I have been assisting someone at the Delhi High Court for last 1.5 years. I've been working there as well, and I've been teaching for this exam for last 9 years now. So I've been here at Vision IS for last 9 years, been teaching here since last 9 years. This is the 10th year of me teaching for the civil services examination. One thing which I can tell you is that I have the perspective of what are the problems that the aspirants go through while preparing for this examination. And that is something which my endeavor has been, that wherever I found that I was not able to get a lot of knowledge and understanding, I should be able to deliver it to my students when I am doing so. So teaching is more like something which comes naturally to me. I never thought that I would be a teacher, would be teaching such a huge crowd. When back in the day in 2014, when I started doing this, I just started doing this for some extra money to sustain myself, because when I used to work in an NGO, I used to be paid a very paltry sum in my hands at the end of every month, and I used to look at myself and used to tell that itna to pehli job ke andar milta tha, usse zyada milta tha. So I used to feel very guilty ki isme kaise kharcha niklega. So I started doing this, to be very honest, to get a side income. But then eventually I started to realize that this is something which I enjoy. Why? Because ultimately I get to interact with so many of you. I get to absorb your energy. Whenever there is a new batch, whenever there are new people that are coming in, there is a lot of excitement within us as well, just like you. Because for us as well, this is a learning experience. For us as well, we are also going to absorb so much from you. Ultimately, teacher is as good as a student, and we learn a lot from you. I always say that I have developed some expertise as far as the Indian Constitution is concerned, but I believe there is still a long way to go. I am a humble student of the subject. I don't claim to know everything and anything about this subject, because this subject is so vast, it is so deep, that I believe that even if I spend 20 more years on this subject, I would still not be able to claim that I have become a master of this subject, because I can see that there are some people, maybe someone like a Fali S. Nariman or a Soli Sorabji, or people such as D.Y. Chandrachud, the present Chief Justice of India, and so many people, those who have such great expertise in this subject, that I am literally a tiny speck on their foot, tiny speck of dust on their shoes as compared to the kind of knowledge that they have. So there is still a long way for me also to go as a teacher, as a student of the subject as well. But one thing that I can assure you is that you attend my classes for Indian Constitution and polity, and I would ensure that you get interested in the subject at the end of all of these classes. I always begin by saying this, that my objective as a teacher is not necessarily to teach you the subject. Because see, as far as teaching the subject, etc. is concerned, that I will tell you the basics. But my objective is to generate interest in the subject, to ensure that when you get out of these classes, you want to open up the book and read the subject on your own. You want to know more about the subject on your own. That is what I believe would be my achievement. Even if I am able to do that to 10 to 20% of you and get you genuinely interested in the subject, maybe some of you go on to opt for law as a career. Maybe some of you go on to study more about this subject in the future. I think that is what would be the takeaway which I would have, because I have come across all the different kind of teachers in my entire academic life as well. Some very poor, some really pathetic, and some average, and some really good ones as well. The good ones were the ones whom I found always kept me interested in the subject, always ensured that I was hooked on to the subject, because there was a lot to look forward to in their classes. So that is what my earnest objective would be as far as these classes are concerned. Now, a few things apart from all the self praise and whatever I had to talk about myself, a few things about the exam. So firstly, I'll just tell you broadly what we are going to be covering in our classes. Now, this is the syllabus as far as paper 2 of the general studies is concerned in the mains examination. Now, of course, I don't expect you to read it at this point of time. What the class plan or the approach we would have is that starting from today, we would understand a bit about what is constitution. We would understand what is the concept of state, which is governed by the constitution. And then we would move on to discuss about some of the salient features of India's constitution. That is some of the basic features of Constitution of India. Once we get a broad understanding of that, then we will delve deeper into specific aspects of the Indian Constitution. We will delve deeper into specific provisions under the Indian Constitution. And in that, I would discuss about the fundamental rights. I would discuss about how the parliament functions. We would discuss about how the government functions. We would discuss about the functioning of the judiciary in India. We would discuss broadly about the functioning of the civil services. We would discuss a lot of historical events as well. Right? So that is what is going to be the broad approach or the plan which we are going to have for the classes. Now, before I begin to talk about a few things which are expected of you in the classes and how I expect you to take up the entire process of attending the classes, let me just talk very quickly about why we should study constitution or why we should develop some kind of understanding or expertise in this subject called as the Constitution of India. See, first and foremost is because this subject is what is going to fetch you marks in the exam. Out of the 100 questions which will be asked in general studies paper 1 in the prelims examination, round about 15 to 20 questions every year are from Indian polity and constitution. This number can vary. This number can be 10 also. In some years it can be 15, in some years it can be 20, but that is the range. So almost 15% of the questions in the prelims examination are asked from Indian polity and constitution and related subjects. The good thing is that if you prepare this subject properly, if you prepare this subject really well, then the chances are that you would be able to get almost all the questions in the exam related to this subject correct. So the good thing about this subject is that the return on investment is very high as compared to the other subjects. In, say, for example, ancient history, medieval history, environment, science and technology, and this is not to badmouth these subjects, but the problem with these subjects is that irrespective of however much time you will invest in preparing these subjects, UPSC would still end up giving you some really new things or weird questions in the exam which you would have no clue about. That does not happen in my subject is one thing which I can tell you. As far as polity is concerned, most of these subjects will be in the zone of where you can attempt them. And chances would be you would be able to get the correct answer also. So the accuracy rate in terms of the exam is much higher in polity questions, and secondly, it is a much more doable section as compared to any other paper, as compared to any other subject. Geography also, economy as well. And a lot of people actually tend to think that constitution, law is humanities. It is not. It is science. And I will prove it to you. Give me a few classes, show a bit of trust and faith. Initially, you would find that the classes are going at a very slow pace. You must understand that I know that many of you must be coming from law background. Many of you may be from political science background, history background, and you may already be knowing a few things. But please understand that I have to keep the entire group together. And therefore, in the first few classes, possibly in first 3, 4, 5 classes, we will keep the pace of the classes slow so that everyone can adjust, can get used to the vocabulary of the subject, can understand the basics of the subject, and then we will eventually speed up. Don't worry about the speeding up part. I will speed up when it is required, and I know that. So we have enough experience to manage the syllabus and how it is supposed to be done and everything within those 42 classes which we are supposed to take for this particular subject. So just be a bit patient in the beginning. So first and foremost is why study Indian Constitution? Because it fetches you marks. So as far as the prelims exam is concerned, you can find almost 10 to 15 questions in the prelims exam in the general studies paper 1 out of 100 questions asked directly from the Indian constitution and polity. So that is why it is very important for prelims exam. Even if you look at the mains examination, so 10 to 15 questions, and see also a lot of key concepts in other subjects would also be understood only when you understand the Indian constitution. Unless you understand the basic law of the country, unless you understand what is governing all of us, then you would not be able to understand a lot of things. So constitution is not just about law, but it is also about history, it is also about society, it is also about economy, because everything ultimately is determined by the constitution. So, and many of you must be having this doubt, sir, ye constitution hota kya hai? We will discuss about it very shortly. Anyway, so that is the first thing which you need to keep in mind, why you need to focus on this particular subject. The second aspect is, if you look at the mains examination, I hope all of you know that there are 9 papers that you would have to give as a part of the mains examination. Out of those 9 papers, 7 would be evaluated. 250 marks each, which makes it 1750 marks in total, plus 275 of the personality test, which makes it 2025. Out of this total is how the merit would be decided by UPSC for the final merit list. Now, out of these 1750 marks, there is one paper which is paper 2 of general studies, which is broadly focused on polity and governance. And out of 250 marks in that paper, almost 100 to 125 marks worth questions are asked every year in the polity and the constitution, from polity and constitution. तो 120 से 125 marks directly जो है वो यहाँ से आता है. Plus, unless you know polity, you would not be able to understand internal security problems. Unless you know polity, you would not be able to understand India's foreign policy. Unless you know polity, you would not be able to relate to the economy as well. Because ultimately, economy is also dependent on politics. It is also dependent on the law. The relationship between the center and the states. How much money is transferred from the center to the state. How the states manage those money. Everything is to be governed according to the law of the country. So, a lot of important concepts in other subjects, indirect questions in other subjects would be related to polity and constitution. And then paper 4 of general studies, which is ethics, integrity and aptitude. There also, there is a portion called as ethics in governance, ethics in administration. I would only be taking that topic for you. And in ethics in administration as well, you would be able to understand a lot of key concepts only when you understand the law of the land. And then in essay paper as well, out of the 8 topics which are given to you, and you are supposed to write essays on 2 topics, out of those 8 topics, you can expect at least 1 or 2 topics every year to be related to Indian constitution, Indian polity, Indian law. So if I were to say, I would not be wrong in saying that out of 1750 marks, if you develop good understanding of polity and constitution, you can be assured of easily 250 to 300 marks directly and indirectly put together. So that basically means almost 1/6 of your preparation, which basically means almost 15% of your time, 15 to 20% of your time should go into this subject, right? And if you build a good base, then other things would become much more easier. So that is why, from the examination perspective, reading this subject is very, very crucial, because a lot of other subjects you would not be able to understand the concepts unless you understand the law of India. And then, most importantly, when you people would become civil servants, this is the oath that you would take. You would take the oath of the Constitution of India. You would say that I would bear my true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India. Unless you actually know what the Constitution of India is, how would you ensure that you actually follow the constitution, right? So to be a good civil servant, to be a good citizen as well, it is important to know the law of the country, so that the government cannot take you for a ride, so that when you become a civil servant, you act according to the vision of the forefathers of this country, right? So that is as far as the convincing part is concerned, that why you need to cover Indian constitution and polity. I'll come brief in a bit to the class plan and approach, a few other things which we also need to keep in mind. in my classes, apart from whatever we will be covering in the classes, I will dictate you some notes as well, which you can take down in the classes, and look at that note taking exercise also as a writing practice, because many of you must not have written in a really, really long time, but this examination requires you to write and write and write a lot. You must know that UPSC expects you to write a certain number of words every year in every paper. कितने expect करता है UPSC आपसे words एक paper में तकरीबन? Anyone has any idea? In mains, 4,000 is what they are expecting. No, because there are 10 questions of 150 words each, which are supposed to be not answered more than 150 words each, and there are 10 questions which are supposed to be answered for not more than 250 words each. You do your calculation, it is 4,000 words, but no one writes 4,000 words. You would eventually end up writing 4,500 to 5,000 words only in the exam, because you would not be able to express in that less number of words. That is the problem. Brevity is a very difficult art to achieve. To be brief, to be very precise and sharp in what you are writing is something which is owned over a long period of time. So 4,000, 4,500 words, let's say 5,000 words in 3 hours. In those 3 hours, you are not only supposed to write, you are supposed to look at the questions, understand the questions, think of the answer, frame the answer, and then write down the answer. And then there are other 100 things which are happening in the examination hall. No, there are other distractions which are there in the examination hall as well. So what UPSC expects you to do is to write 30 words almost per minute in the exam, if you have to do well, and if you have to finish the paper, and if you have to attempt all the 20 questions. Almost 30 words per minute. You try to write today, just go home, try to write 30 words per minute, and then see that what is the speed which is required. The point that I am trying to make is that a lot of times students come to us and say, sir, bahut jaldi ho raha hai dictation. But that is also an exercise that we are giving you of trying to write fast, of trying to improve your writing speed as well. Because ultimately, जब आप एग्जाम में होगे तब वहां पे इतना रिलैक्स बैठ के लिखने का स्कोप नहीं होगा. You need to practice that, and what better than the class itself to practice that entire thing, to practice that skill of writing fast. It is a skill. Writing fast yet writing very neat, right? Both the things are required at the same time. So that's one thing which we need to keep in mind as far as the classes are concerned. Now, other thing is, apart from the notes in whatever things which we'll have a discussion on in the class, we will discuss about the Supreme Court judgments, because ultimately in India, Supreme Court is the final interpreter of the Constitution. So if there is any ambiguity with respect to what is mentioned in the Constitution, what is the meaning of those things, it is the Supreme Court that is supposed to provide clarity on that. We would also look at some of the Constituent Assembly debates, remarks made by some of the members of the Constituent Assembly to understand the Constitution in a better manner. We would look at previous year questions of UPSC to develop a better understanding of what the expectations of UPSC are. And we would look at some anecdotes as well, a number of anecdotes. I have a lot of stories to share. See, if they were to tell me that, sir, please take 100 classes for polity, I would gleefully take them, because I have so many stories, I have so many things to share about what I have seen while working with the senior bureaucrats and the government. I've worked with lower bureaucracy, I've worked with senior bureaucrats as well in the government, and I've seen how the system works from within. I can't claim to know it all again, because ultimately there is only limited experience that I have, but there is still a lot to share. And then of course, we would be relating it to the current events and the happenings around us as well. So these are some of the additional tools which we'll be using in the class, apart from whatever notes and whatever discussion that we will have in class on the board. Now, a few things before we move further. Sources, as far as Indian Constitution and polity are concerned. Polity is concerned. So, Indian Constitution and polity के लिए क्या sources हमें refer करने चाहिए? Let us have a look at that also. Firstly, if you have no background in constitution, in law, anything, then you may begin from this class 8th book of NCERT, which is Social and Political Life. If you find it way too easy, then maybe you can begin from this Democratic Politics 1 NCERT class 9th and Democratic Politics 2 class 10th NCERT. They may seem like very childish books. They may seem like books that have been written for children, but believe me, अगर आप ये बुक्स पढ़ लेते हैं अच्छे से, then your base is going to be absolutely very, very solid. Because the way the concepts have been told through stories, through examples in the NCRTs. I don't find that in any book which is of any comparison anywhere close to them. कोई भी ऐसी किताब नहीं है. So I would suggest that you look at the NCRTs, and this process has to begin from day one itself. आज से ये process start हो जाना चाहिए. You should give yourself a target of maybe a week to 10 days, nothing more than that. ये बड़ी पतली पतली किताबें हैं. You can get all the PDF, everything online. अगर आपको printed पढ़ने की शौक है, so you may get it from the market. You can go to the market and you can ask them. They will either provide you the original book or a photostat of this. So you please ensure, अगर आपका कोई base नहीं है, if there is absolutely no clue of what constitution, polity, law, etc. is, and you had just rectified things when you were in school, in your civics lessons, I would strongly recommend that you please refer these 3 books. They are brilliantly written with very, very lucid examples, and believe me, they would leave a long lasting impression on you and would also ensure that you have very clear concepts from the day one, from beginning itself. Unless you have some exposure, then I would suggest that you should start from Indian Constitution at Work, NCRT Class 11. That is one book which you may refer as far as the Constitution of India is concerned, if you have if you have some basic understanding. But I expect that in next 10 days, as we have our classes, you people should cover any of these books on your own. इसको पढ़ लीजिएगा खुद से, because अगर आप केवल क्लास में आके बैठेंगे और इस एक्सपेक्टेशन से बैठे हैं कि सब कुछ यहां पे क्लास में हो जाएगा, वो नहीं होगा. उसका सिंपल रीजन ये है that we have to take you from very basic 0 level to a very advanced level where you should be ready to write the mains examination. My objective of teaching my students is not only that they should become good at prelims, but they should actually qualify the real exam, which is the mains exam. So in order to do well in that, you need to have a good analytical understanding of the subject, and that cannot happen if we keep just focusing on the basics all the time. Therefore, it is my earnest request to you, if you want to make the maximum out of these classes, the onus is on you. You please ensure that you read these books before you turn up for the classes. आप इसको हफ्ते 10 दिन के अंदर कंप्लीट कर लीजिएगा तो आपके लिए बेटर रहेगा. ज्यादा समय नहीं लगेगा, believe me. They have been written in such a simple, lucid language that it would literally not take time. All of you are adults, all of you are well-grown individuals, and I'm sure that you can handle a book which has been written for a class 10th or a class 9 student very easily. Otherwise, you must also understand one more thing. When you get into services, अगर आप IAS ऑफिसर बन जाएंगे, तो पहले दिन जब आप ऑफिस में जाएंगे ट्रेनिंग के बाद, तो वहां पे आपकी टेबल के ऊपर आ जाएंगी फाइल्स, और उस फाइल्स में होगा बहुत सारा अगेन टेक्स्ट, एंड इट वुड बी एक्सपेक्टेड कि आप जो है उन फाइल्स को पढ़ के उनका समरी दीजिए डीसी को, डीएम को, या आप जो है उसका एक सिनॉप्सिस बना के दीजिए, या इसके ऊपर एक्शन लीजिए या सजेशन दीजिए. एंड देयर वुड बी नो वन, बिलीव मी, टू हेल्प यू देयर. सर्विसेज आर अ वेरी लोनली प्लेस दैट वे. There is no one to really hand hold you and to make you walk. वहां पे कोई चलना नहीं सिखाता है. वहां पे you are thrown into the deep end of the swimming pool. एक छोटे बच्चे को अगर स्विमिंग सिखाना हो ना, तो उठा के स्विमिंग पूल में फेंक दिया जाता है. It is said that the human beings have a natural ability to swim till the age of 6 months. 6 महीने तक आप बच्चे को उठा के पूल में फेंकिएगा, वो सीख जाएगा. उसके बाद over a period of time we start losing this ability to learn swimming. Same is with a civil सर्वेंट एज वेल. जब आप सिविल सर्विसेज में जाएंगे, पहले दिन आपके ऊपर भार डाल दिया जाएगा, और ये मत एक्सपेक्ट कीजिएगा कि ट्रेनिंग में आपने ये सब सीखा होगा, हाउ टू डील विद दीज इश्यूज. देयर विल बी नो वन हु वुड बी टेलिंग यू ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स इन द ट्रेनिंग एज वेल. यू वुड हैव टू डू ऑल दीज थिंग्स ऑन योर ओन. एवरीथिंग वुड बी डन ऑन योर ओन. प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड दैट. दिस इज हाउ द सिस्टम इज. डू नॉट एक्सपेक्ट इट टू बी एन ईजी वॉक. बहुत सारे लोग ये बोलते हैं सिविल सर्विसेज का एग्जाम क्वालिफाई कर लो, उसके बाद जो है जिंदगी बड़ी बढ़िया हो जाएगी. ऐसा नहीं है. You have to still continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to read. Only then you would be able to survive there and be able to compete with others and be able to actually do good work for what you are there. So therefore, I would suggest that you read these NCRTs. Then apart from that, there is one more NCRT which you may refer a bit later, possibly after 10, 12 classes, and that is the political theory NCERT of class 11th. We have seen a lot of questions getting asked directly from this particular NCERT also in the prelims and the mains examination. So you should refer this as well. इससे आपको एक basic political theory की understanding हो जाएगी. ये भी बहुत simple language में किताब लिखा हुआ है. I would strongly recommend that all the candidates should read this book as well after a few days. And then apart from it, one book which I want all of you to purchase and to be ready with from the next class onwards is the Bare Act of the Indian Constitution. So you just need to go to the shop or go online, whichever portal you are using, and just search Indian Constitution Bare Act. Please do not buy a bulky Bare Act. Please buy the one which is available for the least amount of money. जो सबसे सस्ता हो वो खरीदिएगा. उसका मतलब ये है कि उसके अंदर आलतू फालतू की इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं है. मुझसे ये मत पूछेगा आके कि सर ये वाली अपनी किताब दिखा दीजिए, हमने तो जो ली है वो ब्लू कलर की है, आपकी येलो की है. देखिए कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. एवरीथिंग इनसाइड दिस इज द सेम. आप कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन चाहे राजेंद्र नगर से खरीदें या चाहे मदुरई से, और वेदर यू बाय इट इन कोहिमा, इट इज गोइंग टू बी द सेम. देयर इज नो डिफरेंस इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया. अगर आप लोग खरीद नहीं सकते हैं, सो देन आई वुड सजेस्ट कि आप इसका कम से कम नहीं तो एक ई कॉपी अपने फोन पे या लैपटॉप पे या पैड पे या जिस पे भी डाउनलोड कर लें. बट आई वुड स्ट्रांगली रिकमेंड दैट यू प्लीज गेट दिस from the next class onwards, because I would be extensively referring to this in my classes. मैं constitution के थ्रू पढ़ाता हूं, मैं constitution ऐसे ही नहीं पढ़ाऊंगा. So we will understand actually what is written in this book. Law लिखी क्या है exactly, हम law की language पढ़ेंगे. मैं उसको आपके लिए आसान बनाना चाहता हूं. I want that at the end of these classes you should be able to pick up the constitution and read any provision of the constitution and understand the meaning of it on your own, without any teacher, without any help. That is what I want to make my students. I want to make you self-capable. I want to make you completely independent of any teacher, any book, any kind of other source. And the source and the way to learn that is to read the constitution out of the constitution itself. So you please buy this. ना ये please खरीद लीजिएगा, ये सबके लिए कंपलसरी है. बहुत बार क्या होता है, स्टूडेंट्स आ जाते हैं क्लास में, एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के ऊपर ही 3-4 लोग टूटे हुए हैं. आई डोंट वांट दैट टू हैपन इन द क्लास. इफ दैट इज देयर, यू प्लीज डाउनलोड इट ऑन योर फोन. अगर आपको कुछ और दिक्कत आ रही है, नहीं खरीदा जा रहा है, आलस आ रहा है, पैसे नहीं है, मेरे पास आ जाना, मैं आपको गिफ्ट कर दूंगा. बट प्लीज डू एंश्योर दैट यू हैव अ कॉपी ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन and you mark things in the constitution as we discuss. You use your pen, you use your pencil, whatever, to mark things in the constitution as well, so that you can go back and revisit them at a later stage. So this is one. Apart from that, as far as other textbooks are concerned, अभी initial days में तो मैं बस आपको यही suggest करूंगा that you please read the NCERTs and attend the classes. 4-5 classes attend कीजिएगा. You will start getting a hang of the subject. ज्यादा तेज मत भागिएगा. ज्यादा तेज भागेंगे तो मुंह के बल गिर जाएंगे, है ना. You would fall flat on your face and then it would harm you. So my suggestion will be, बहुत तेज नहीं भागना है हमें. We don't have to be in any kind of hurry right now. Attend classes. Ensure that you go back and revise what has been taught in the class. Before you turn up for the next class, फिर से revise कीजिएगा, so that everything is afresh in your mind of what was discussed in the last class. Otherwise, पीछे का सारा पढ़ा हुआ हम भूलते जाएंगे. And this subject is something which is strongly interconnected with each other. If you do not study things regularly on your own, then you can say goodbye to this subject. Because मैं क्या, कोई भी टीचर नहीं पढ़ा सकता. आपको पीछे की चीजें याद रखनी पड़ेंगी, और उसके लिए consistent revision is something which is required. Other thing is that as far as books are concerned, there are 2 books, M. Lakshmikant, Indian Polity, or you may refer D.D. Basu. At this point of time, I would suggest that do not buy any book. At this point of time, just wait. हफ्ता 10 दिन वेट कीजिएगा, कुछ क्लासेस अटेंड कीजिएगा, एंड देन यू टेक अ कॉल व्हाट बुक, वेदर यू वांट टू बाय दैट और नॉट, वो आप बाद में देखिएगा. एंड प्लस अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, the Vision IAS material which has been provided to you, I think it is one of the best materials. I won't say the best, because I mean there is nothing like the best. It is one of the best materials which is available in the market, provided by a coaching institute, written in a very lucid, simple manner. The good thing about our material is that at the back of the material, if you have seen, there are questions that have been provided. आपको अभी मिला नहीं होगा, when you will get that. There are questions that have been provided after every topic, from previous year mains, previous year prelims. We have also provided questions, solved ones, with model answers from the previous year test series of Vision IAS as well. So you have a treasure trove of content there apart from what is mentioned in the content already. So if I were in your position at this stage, I would only read NCERTs, attend the classes very diligently, go back and reflect on what has been taught in the class, and then think about moving to material, and then think about moving to any books, etc., and all of those things. Other than this, there are two more other sources which you need to have, every one of you. ये तो सब आप अपनी खुद की strategy देख लीजिएगा, which one you want to go for, which one you don't want to go for. Two sources which I want all of you to refer to. One is that you should have the previous year questions with you. Very important source. Unless you know what UPSC is asking, how they are asking, you will be unnecessarily meandering into those areas which is not required, and you would be wasting your time. A lot of times I see candidates wasting their time on frivolous questions and frivolous things. Reason for that is because they do not know what the demand of the exam is. So looking at previous year questions from day zero is the most important thing. So you please ensure that you buy previous year questions. Now what publication, previous year questions, etc., I am not going to tell you. What you can do is though, that please buy previous year questions both for prelims and mains, and they should be unsolved. Unsolved वाले खरीदिएगा. Compulsorily make it a point कि आप unsolved ही खरीदें, solved मत खरीदिएगा, because most of the times the answers etc. which have been provided in these solved ones are very poor. So I would suggest कि आप unsolved previous year questions खरीदें. Last 10 years should be more than enough. बहुत बार वो 25, 30, 50 साल पता नहीं कौन कौन से दे देते हैं, but just 10 years is more than enough, nothing more than that. इतना भी अभी के लिए बहुत है. But you should have this and try to buy those previous year questions in which the questions have been given section wise, so that as you cover one particular topic of the syllabus, you can go back and look at the section wise questions related to that topic and judge your preparation and see कि मेरे को क्या पढ़ना है, क्या नहीं फोकस करना है. In fact, कोई टॉपिक पढ़ने से पहले आप प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस देख लेंगे थोड़ा, और 1 घंटा स्पेंड कर लेंगे उस पे, एंड देन यू गो एंड रीड द टॉपिक. बिलीव मी, यू वुड बी एबल टू फोकस बेटर. यू वुड एक्चुअली नो कि इस पढ़ने से मुझे क्या एक्सट्रैक्ट करना है. सो देयरफॉर प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस, प्रीलिम्स एंड मेंस, अनसॉल्व्ड वंस, लास्ट 10 years, section wise. And then the most important thing, that is the syllabus of the examination. Syllabus. अब ये कहां से लें? Just go on the internet, you will find the syllabus of the examination. Put it in a Word doc. उसका font size reduce कीजिए, margins कम कीजिए. Try to fit all the syllabus of 4 papers of general studies of mains examination. Prelims का syllabus is actually not of much use to us because that is not really very detailed syllabus and that does not really help. So I would suggest mains syllabus or all the 4 papers. You should put it in a doc, reduce the font or whatever, take out either and adjust it either to 4 pages or adjust it to 2 pages and take multiple printouts. जितने printouts हो सकते हैं, 10-15 printouts लगाइएगा, उसके निकालिएगा and put it everywhere, wherever you spend maximum time in the day. Even if it is the commode of your toilet, उसके सामने अगर लगाना पड़े तो वहां सिलेबस लगाइएगा. उसके 2 रीजन हैं. एक ये that you should firstly know कि हमें तैयारी क्या करनी है. If you do not really know what the syllabus of the exam is, how would you relate to what is actually supposed to be prepared? Second is that it would keep some pressure also on you subconsciously that this all I have to cover. Thirdly, firstly, knowing the syllabus itself is very important to know the subject. For example, we will start telling you that you please read newspapers. अब न्यूज़पेपर में क्या चीज पढ़नी है, क्या चीज नहीं पढ़नी है, what is important for the exam, what is not important for the exam, what is relevant for the syllabus of the exam. How would you judge that? Again, you have to have the syllabus in front of you. So you please ensure that you have copies of syllabus with you on your mobile, on your desktop, on your laptop, on your iPad, in front of you, in the bedroom, in the washroom, in the kitchen, wherever you can put, there should be syllabus. The reason for that is because for first 1 month, I always suggest to candidates, you should go through the syllabus of the exam at least 100 times. कम से कम 100 बार सिलेबस देखिएगा, तब आपको एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग बननी शुरू होगी कि अच्छा ये भी पढ़ना है, इस सब्जेक्ट में इस टॉपिक में ये हो सकता है. बहुत सारे आप टॉपिक्स पढ़ेंगे, नहीं समझ में आएगा. यू वुड लुक एट देम, यू वुड नॉट बी एबल टू बिल्ड एन अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज रिक्वायर्ड. दैट्स ओके, बट स्टिल कीप रीडिंग द सिलेबस. दैट विल कीप making some kind of waves in your mind, subconscious understanding. So it's very important that you refer that as well. So this is as far as the sources are concerned. Iske alawa we will discuss about sources, but I am telling to all of you, for first few days just read NCERTs, attend the classes, go back, revise the notes, whatever you have taken down, what we have discussed in the classes on the board, take that down, revise that, come back to the class. Do that for at least 5, 6, 7 classes. After that, once you have a better understanding of what this subject requires an approach of, then I will tell you कि क्या करना है आगे, किस तरीके से books approach करनी है and all of those things, right? So this is as far as the sources are concerned. Now a few other things before we actually jump into the topic. I mean, it's already 11:30. Few do's and don'ts for the class. One, if you are someone who has a good understanding of the constitution, law, etc., you know about things, very good. But when you walk into my classes, try to ensure that you walk in with a clean slate. जब आप रोज खाना खाते होंगे तो ऐसा नहीं है कि एक थाली के अंदर ही आज भी खाना खाया और कल भी खाया और परसों भी खाया. You clean it up. Therefore, if you have to learn the subject in a proper manner, and I am telling you, I would teach you how to actually cover this subject very properly, scientifically. But you need to trust me. You need to show some faith and trust. Initially, at times, a lot of people find me very intimidating, which is perfectly fine. Because again, my personality can be like that at times. And a lot of times students say कि sir नहीं, हमें जो है डर लग रहा है. At times, student feel कि कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा. It is fine. You must understand that everyone has a different style of teaching. Everyone has a different style of learning as well. You would take some time to adjust to my style. So show a bit of faith. But I can tell you that after the end of these classes, you would come to me yourself and would say that we have been able to understand this subject and we find this subject interesting. I can give it to you in writing. That I will assure will happen. वो नहीं होगा कि मतलब सब्जेक्ट से ही मन उठ गया, सब्जेक्ट ही पढ़ने का मन नहीं कर रहा है, हमारा इंटरेस्ट ही खत्म कर दिया टीचर ने. दैट आई विल नॉट लेट हैपन. So just show a bit of faith, bit of trust. We'll go slow, but we will learn well and we will build a strong foundation. So that is one. If you have no background, nothing to worry. If you have no background, do not feel inferior. दूसरे आसपास के लोग को उसने बोला मेरे को तो ये आता है, नहीं आता है, उससे worry नहीं होना है, परेशान नहीं होना है. So that is one thing which you need to keep in mind. Second thing is that revise regularly. You must understand one thing. Simply because you have joined coaching institute and you have paid some X amount of money, which is a very hefty fee, I know, it does not mean that you will qualify this exam. Ultimately, what will decide whether you qualify this exam or not is how much hard work that you do on your own. किसी भी टीचर से आप पढ़ लीजिए, अगर आप खुद से मेहनत नहीं करेंगे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. Ultimately, self study is the key. Every day when you are attending 3 hours classes here, ये आप नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं, मैं पढ़ रहा हूं, मैं रिवाइज कर रहा हूं. आप थोड़ी ना पढ़ रहे हैं कुछ, आपको तो बस कुछ समझ में आ रहा है. पढ़ाई होगी घर पे वापस अलग से जाकर. सो प्लीज इंश्योर दैट यू स्पेंड एटलीस्ट 2 to 3 hours to begin with the books, with the content. And even if मुश्किल लगे स्टार्टिंग में, इट इज फाइन. सबको मुश्किल लगता है, बट बिगिन स्लो. स्पेंड एटलीस्ट 2 to 3 hours ऑफ सेल्फ स्टडी एवरी डे. कुछ ना कुछ पढ़िएगा रोज, एटलीस्ट 2 to 3 hours. इतना कीजिए टू बिगिन विद. एक मोमेंटम बनाइएगा अपना. एंड देयरफॉर आई वुड सजेस्ट दैट यू प्लीज रिवाइज रेगुलरली आफ्टर द क्लास and before the class as well. We are going to have morning classes in your batch, but still at the same time maybe a day before or maybe in the morning 10 मिनट ही लगा के बस एक बार देख लीजिएगा पेजेस पलट के. क्लास में पहले आ गए तो पेजेस पलट लीजिएगा, पिछली क्लास में क्या किया था. जस्ट यहां पे मत बैठे रहिएगा. You would absorb more in the class if you revise regularly. Third and a very important aspect, ask when you have doubts, but also be patient. Now there are a few things that I want to make it clear to you as far as asking doubts is concerned. As you can see the size of you here, this size is only growing every year. I have often started to say that in a few years, the way the things are going, we would possibly be taking a satsang and all of you would be sitting in a huge Mahasabha and where I would be sitting on my throne and I would be passing sermons, because वही होगा. अभी ऑलरेडी उस लेवल पे पहुंच चुकी है बात. थोड़े दिन में 1000, 2000, 5000 स्टूडेंट के बैच भी होने लग जाएंगे. अब इस साइज के बैच के अंदर सारे डाउट्स एंटरटेन करना पॉसिबल नहीं है. आप ये प्लीज समझ लीजिएगा. सो फ्यू थिंग्स. वन, इन द बिगिनिंग देयर विल बी अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस इन योर माइंड. मैं कुछ पढ़ाऊंगा, मन उधर भागेगा, दिमाग उधर भागेगा, कुछ और समझ में आएगा, कुछ और कहीं और से बात निकाल लेंगे, है ना. कुछ और नया, कुछ रिसेंट हैपनिंग पढ़ा, उसके बारे में दिमाग में चीजें दौड़ेंगी. प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड, हर सब्जेक्ट को पढ़ने का एक तरीका होता है. देयर इज अ वे टू स्टडी एवरी सब्जेक्ट, अंडरस्टैंड एवरी सब्जेक्ट, spend a bit of time on first building the basics. Questions are there, we will address the questions, but you must also understand, unless you have a good understanding, a lot of times our questions are also frivolous. This is not to say that what questions are going to come to your mind are wrong, but they are not really relevant. The point that I am trying to make is that, firstly, how do we go about the questions exercise in the class? I will cover topics, subtopics. After I am done with topics or subtopics, I will give you an opportunity to ask questions. You please put up questions. How? You raise your hands and then I will give you an opportunity to ask the question. We will only follow this modus operandi in the class. You cannot expect कि आप कहीं पे बैठे हैं और आपने वहां से क्वेश्चन चिल्ला दिया और मैं उसका आंसर करूंगा. वो नहीं होने वाला. I would give you an opportunity to ask questions. Put up your hands. I will ask you to raise the question and then we will take up that particular question. Also, this is an earnest request that when I'm teaching a particular topic, please don't interject and stop me there and ask a question suddenly. Until and unless you cannot control asking that question, and without asking that question, you would not be able to breathe. अगर ऐसा हो कि सांस ही नहीं आने वाली हमें, हम अगर ये सवाल नहीं पूछेंगे, है ना, बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाएगा यहाँ पे 5 मिनट बैठना, तो ठीक है, बिल्कुल पूछिएगा. I don't want any one of you to be falling sick here or to lie unconscious here. अगर वैसा नहीं है, किसी को एकदम ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है कि बिल्कुल सांस ही नहीं आ पा रही है हमें अंदर, तो 5 मिनट रुक जाइएगा. I will finish the topic. I will give you an opportunity. Ask the questions. Another thing, please do not ask questions just for the heck of asking questions, because we have limited time in the classes. We can't afford to waste the time. So simply because आपको question पूछना है, तो उसके लिए मत पूछिएगा. मेरे को पता है आप लोग सब बहुत समझदार हैं. डोंट ट्राई टू इंप्रेस मी बाय आस्किंग क्वेश्चंस. आई वुड नॉट बी इंप्रेस्ड. वन, इफ यू आर ट्राइंग टू इंप्रेस समवन एल्स हियर बाय आस्किंग अ क्वेश्चन, देन माय ऑनेस्ट सजेशन टू यू वुड बी, प्लीज डू नॉट, बिकॉज इट डज नॉट वर्क. एंड आई एम टेलिंग यू दिस बाय एक्सपीरियंस, है ना, बाय एक्सपीरियंस बता रहा हूं. दूसरा आदमी इंप्रेस नहीं होगा, वो यही सोचेगा कि बेवकूफ हो तुम. So when you have to ask questions, ask them when there is genuinely a question, not to impress someone. Impress करने के और तरीके हैं, वो मुझसे आप बाद में अलग से समझ लेना. I'll tell you. I know I have lot of experience. I'll tell you how to go about that exercise also, but that is a different matter altogether. Please don't use this as a tool to impress or to show how smart you are. I know you are very smart. That is why you are sitting here and thinking of preparing for this exam and to become a civil servant. Don't try to prove anything to me or to anyone else. Prove it to yourself in your mind. That is one. Therefore, जब क्वेश्चन आप पूछने लगें, उससे पहले आप ये पूछिए, सोचिएगा अपने आप से कि क्या अगर ये सवाल कोई और पूछे तो ऐसा तो नहीं है कि ये सवाल मुझे फ्रिवलस लगेगा. डोंट डू टू अदर्स व्हाट यू डोंट वांट अदर्स टू डू टू यू. सिंपल एज दैट. डू नॉट वेस्ट द टाइम ऑफ द क्लास सिंपली बिकॉज यू वांट टू अपीयर एन हीरो हियर बाय आस्किंग अ क्वेश्चन. दूसरी बात, ये कई बार ऐसा भी होता है, स्टूडेंट्स ट्राई टू जज द नॉलेज ऑफ द टीचर बाय आस्किंग क्वेश्चंस. टेस्ट द नॉलेज ऑफ टीचर. यू कैन टेस्ट माय नॉलेज. See, if I would know, I would tell you. If I would not know, I would tell you that I don't know. It's as simple as that. मेरी knowledge test करके कुछ मिलेगा नहीं. I am not that person who would take it on my ego कि मेरे से ही क्या सवाल पूछ लिया, मेरे को नहीं आता है and all of that. As I said, I am still a student of the subject. I am still learning it myself. And I would continue to learn it for the rest of my life also. So even if someone comes and asks me questions which I don't know answer to, I would not feel any bad or any inferior कि मुझे नहीं आता था ये. I would just simply tell you, I do not know. It's as simple as that. You please try to figure out the answer on your own, or I would tell you कि मैं ढूंढूंगा question का answer खुद, and then I'll get back to you later. Right? So that is one thing which you need to keep in mind. As far as responding in the class is concerned, that is also important. When I ask you questions, please put up your hands. Then I give you an opportunity to answer and then you answer. Please do not answer in a mob because इतनी भीड़ के अंदर मैं कुछ नहीं समझ पाऊंगा. There is no point of doing that. For online students, please ensure that you keep your queries restricted to the query portal. The response portal is for response, as you can figure out by the name. It is not for chit chatting. उसमें बहुत बार मैं देखता हूँ लोग अपने ही गप्पे लगने शुरू हो जाते हैं, है ना. People are on their own and और कैसा है, क्या चल रहा है, और क्या खाया था नाश्ते में, ये सब टाइप की बातें चल रही हैं. So please avoid those conversations on the response portal. Reason for that is either the response portal would be shut down, which will be a loss for everyone, or you will be blocked from the response portal, right? So either way, it is not going to be conducive for you. So my suggestion will be that you please refrain from misusing the response portal. Please be a bit responsible. आप लोग civil servants, law enforcers बनने वाले हैं. So it's important that you follow the law yourself. खुद भी हम law follow करें. Other thing is practice MCQs, answer writing, daily assignments, etc. will be given to you. You may find those assignments, you may find those exercises very easy in the beginning. It is fine. Just do it as an exercise to just get a bit of practice. That's it, nothing else. And then self-study is the most important key as far as the preparation of this examination is concerned. A few other things. As you would have realized, I do tend to use Hindi at times in between. For those who are non-native Hindi speakers and who may find it difficult, firstly, I'm apologetic that I do tend to mix up. It's not that I would be taking half the lecture in Hindi and half in English. 90% of it would be in English only. There may be a few instances where I may say a few things in Hindi. You know, in case you are not able to understand anything, you please raise your hands and tell me. If you are non-Hindi speaker, I will explain it to you again in English because that is completely my responsibility, right? So, अब उल्टा नहीं हो सकता. Some people say कि सर हिंदी में समझा दो ये. हिंदी में नहीं समझाया जा सकता. जो हिंदी में समझाया जा सकता होगा, I will say that. But otherwise, if at any point of time, any of you, those who are non-Hindi speakers, if you find any problem in understanding anything that I have said, maybe in Hindi, mostly I tend to repeat things. When I say in Hindi, I repeat it in English as well. But if you find any problem, stop me right there and tell me that, sir, can you please repeat it again in English because I am not able to understand what you just explained. हाँ, अब एक और चीज है. अब मैंने कोई आपको स्टोरी बताई कि मैं ऐसे जा रहा था एंड दिस एंड दैट एंड एवरीथिंग एंड देन आई सेड दैट इन हिंदी. अब आप बोलो सर ये इंग्लिश में एक्सप्लेन कर दो, उसका मजा चला जाएगा, है ना. द एंटायर फन विल बी टेकन आउट ऑफ इट. अब मैं आपको कोई एक, है ना, आई से सम शेर, अब आपने बोला सर ये इंग्लिश में समझा दो. अब आप सोचो कैसा मतलब अजीब सा लगेगा. So you have to also understand some constraints like that also. This is not to disrespect any non-Hindi speaker. I have utmost respect for all the Indian languages. I myself, I'm trying to learn a number of Indian languages. I have been trying to learn Malayalam. I have been trying to learn Tamil. I have learned a bit of Kannada as well. I can speak a bit of Kannada as well. I have made a constant effort to learn Indian languages because if you are living in India and if you don't know Indian languages, then what do you know? Right? Because I see that so many people outside India know Indian languages, but we Indians ourselves do not know Indian languages except a few of our own mother tongue or native language. So I try to make that effort. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that if at any point of time, any of non-Hindi students find it difficult to understand what I'm explaining in Hindi, you please stop me right there and then. And for that, you don't need to wait for me to finish the topic. Stop me right there and then. Tell me that, sir, can you please repeat that whatever you have said in English right now, and I will do that, right? So that's another thing which I just wanted to put it out there. So these are some of the things which we need to keep in mind. Also, please ensure that you behave like students in the class and do not be disrespectful either towards others or to me. If you are disrespectful towards others, then it just beats the entire purpose of you getting into civil services. I really don't know what you're going to do there. Second is that also be respectful for the teacher as well. Simply because you must understand that it can get distracting at times. Often I see students sitting in the class, giggling and just sharing joke amongst themselves. If you have a really good joke, please share it with the rest of us. We all would laugh over it. And if you're not confident of the joke that you have, then you please go out of the class, share your jokes, do your chit-chatting, do whatever you want to outside the class, I don't have any problem. You want to go outside the class, dance, you want to go do sing a song, do whatever you want to, but not within the class. Just ensure that you sit here with a learner's perspective to learn, and you sit here with the sincerity of a student who's wanting to understand a subject. That is what you should come here with the perspective of, right? So these are some of the do's and don'ts as far as the classes are concerned. Another important thing, as I said, after every topic I will give you some notes. Initially in the few classes I may not give you a lot of notes, because in the first 2-3 classes most of our discussion would be just basic discussion, basic building blocks. So there may not be a lot of writing to do, or may not be a lot of note taking to do. So do not say अरे ये तो notes ही नहीं मिल रहे. मैं नोट्स के बारे में आप चिंता मत कीजिए. मैं हमेशा नोट्स के बारे में स्टूडेंट्स को ये बोलता हूं, आप नोट्स मांगेंगे तो मैं इतने नोट दूंगा आपको, इतने नोट नहीं, नोट्स, है ना, इतने नोट्स दूंगा कि आप जो है परेशान हो जाएंगे कि कौन से नोट पढ़ें कौन से नहीं पढ़ें. आई हैव अ लॉट ऑफ कंटेंट टू गिव. मैं बहुत दे दूंगा, पर उसका कोई फायदा नहीं है, बिकॉज अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम स्टूडेंट्स are running after seeking notes and trying to make notes, but they forget that ultimately the exercise is to develop an understanding and then to apply it in the exam. And then one last point which I want to make with respect to this subject. As I said, law, constitution is science. It is not something which is history नहीं है कि मतलब पढ़ लिया और उसको रटना है. साइंस है, साइंस की तरह पढ़िएगा. What I mean to say is, in fact, I would tell you, as a thumb rule for learning any subject in life, anything that you do, कोई भी काम करें, चाहे खाना बनाने का काम करें, चाहे स्पोर्ट्स खेलें, और वेदर इट इज एनीथिंग इन लाइफ, कोई सब्जेक्ट पढ़ें, इफ यू हैव टू रोट लर्न, अगर रट्टा लगाना पड़ रहा है, दैट मीन्स you are doing it the wrong way. That is the thumb rule which you should consider as the most important learning that you should have today. किसी भी चीज को रटना नहीं है, किसी भी चीज को याद नहीं रखना है. We have to understand, we have to relate, we have to revise, but we need not rote learn anything. If you are rote learning anything, you are doing it the wrong way. आप उसको गलत तरीके से पढ़ रहे हैं, and that is not going to help you. So if you do want to do well in this examination, my earnest suggestion to all of you would be that you please focus on building concepts. समझने के ऊपर फोकस कीजिएगा, रटने पे नहीं. और इस सब्जेक्ट में तो सबसे ज्यादा do not focus on trying to rote learn anything. ये बहुत ही बेकार की फालतू की बात some people have spread around, that you need to have a good memory power. You need to be having a photographic memory to qualify this exam. This is absolute nonsense. What you need is conceptual understanding and problem solving ability. If you have these two things, believe me, you will do well in the exam. So do not rote learn anything. कोई भी चीज रट्टा मत मारिएगा, समझिएगा. समझ में नहीं आ रही है तो मुझे बताइएगा. I will explain it again. I will explain it in a different manner, and I will ensure that you understand that. Right? So this is all about the basic introduction to how we are going to be conducting the classes. With that, I welcome you all to classes on Indian polity and constitution. And now we will begin with the first topic, that is just to build a broad understanding of what is constitution and what is the concept of state. Before I proceed ahead, I'll just take 2-3 more minutes. Anyone has any questions related to whatever we have discussed? Any doubts, any questions about how we approach anything that we have discussed till now in last 1 hour? No one has any questions? Can we proceed further? Okay. Now let's start with the first topic, and this is the introduction to constitution. And first we will understand the concept of constitution. We will understand the concept of state. So let me start by asking you a few questions. How many of you have, I'm sure most of you have come across the term constitution earlier. What would you say is constitution? Can any one of you answer? In simple words, I don't need any bookish language. In simple words, if you were explaining it to your 5-year-old brother or your sister, how would you explain what is constitution? Yes. Way of governing country or state. Yes, sir. Fundamental law of the land that governs a particular state. What do you mean by govern? What is the meaning of this govern? Yes, sir. The rules that are supposed to be followed by everybody. I saw hand at the back. Yes. Go ahead. You don't need to just sit there and then answer. Okay, so there should be some rules which should be followed by every one of us. See, I'm sure most of you have played some kind of sports or the other. Right? I play cricket regularly. I play cricket every Sunday. How many of you play cricket? How many of you enjoy playing cricket? How many of you play hockey? Has anyone played hockey here? Hockey? I was a goalkeeper for hockey because that's the only thing which I knew how to do in hockey. An easy job to do. In football and in hockey, if you don't know anything, then you can just become the goalkeeper. So I think that's the easier thing. How many of you have done boxing ever? Boxing kiya kisi ne? Boxing, you've done boxing. Boxing. Professionally kiya kisi ne? Have you done professionally? No. Not professionally, amateur. Anyway. How many of you have played golf? Golf? No one has played golf. Huh? Very expensive sport. Kitty बहुत महंगा आता है. How many of you played tennis? Tennis खेला है किसी ने? Some have played tennis also. How many of you played squash? I really like squash as a sport. Squash भी खेला है. Huh? Anyway, so the point is that if you play any sport, and I'm sure some of you at any point of time must have played some or the other sport. कुछ नहीं तो गिल्ली डंडा तो खेला ही होगा, है ना? कुछ नहीं तो लूडो खेला होगा कोविड के अंदर, वो लूडो किंग के ऊपर. Now imagine that Ludo which you are playing has no rules. ना कोई बोल रहा, उसके अंदर ये चल रहा है कि भाई जिसने पहले डाइस फेंक दिया उसकी बारी, है ना? कोई बोल रहा है कि नहीं एक से नहीं गोटी खुलेगी, 3 नंबर से भी खुलती है. कोई बोल रहा है नहीं मेरा तो 2 नंबर फेवरेट है, 2 नंबर से खुलती है. है ना? So the point is, for every sport we have some rules. Imagine a sport without rules. We used to have sport without rules. जो गली के अंदर क्रिकेट होता था बचपन में, वो विदाउट रूल्स ही होता था. जिसका बैट उसी के रूल्स. जिसका बैट उसी के रूल, जिसकी बॉल उसी का रूल्स. जैसे वो चाहे वैसे ही होगा. सिंपली ऐसे ही होता था बचपन में तो. सो द प्रॉब्लम विद not having rules around any sport is that it can lead to chaos. It can lead to a complete confusion. Similarly, a country that has to be governed also needs certain rules, certain laws that should be followed by everyone. Otherwise, it would be a jungle raj. See what happens in the jungle. There are no rules. In jungle, there is only one rule. That might is right. Whoever is powerful is right. That's why the lion is the king of the jungle. Why? Because he's the most powerful. He's the one who has the maximum power to defeat anyone, or possibly an elephant to challenge him, or maybe some other animals. But that's why lion is the king of the jungle. The point that I'm trying to make is that if you do not have any rules in the society, it would lead to utter chaos and anarchy in the society. That's why we need certain basic rules. That's why we need certain basic law to be followed by everyone. And that, in case of India, is what is constitution. So now imagine yourself back in time in 46, let's say 1946. You are Pandit Nehru, Sardar Patel, Rajendra Prasad. You know that within a year or 2 years, India is going to be independent of the British rule. Till now, last 200 years, we have been governed by the British laws, how the British wanted to carry out things here in India. But now, once the British leave, the onus would be on us on how this country needs to be governed, on how this country needs to be run. Now, who will take decisions with respect to which laws should be made in India, with respect to what should be the challan for jumping a traffic light? Who should make rules with respect to what should be punishment for murder? Who should make rules with respect to how much income tax one should pay? Who should make rules with respect to how much income tax one should pay on buying a number of other products? Who should enforce these rules? This was the difficulty that was faced by the leaders of Indian freedom struggle when the Indians were at the verge of achieving independence in 47. And they then started to think that once we get independence, we need to have some people amongst us to rule us. Because let's say if I were to give the opportunity to this entire group to tell me that let's discuss or let's watch 5 movies. Let's say मैं आप सबको बोलूं कि 5 मूवी देखते हैं हम. अब अगर मैं सबको अपॉर्चुनिटी दे दूं वो बोलने की कि भाई आप बताओ, it will create a chaos. Ideally, what should be done? You people should select a few representatives of yours, and they should, on your behalf, convey to me that these are the 5 movies that we should be watching, or these are the 5 things that we should be doing, or these are the 5 restaurants that we should be going to. Similarly, the Indian citizens in 46 decided that in future we need to have some people who need to be taking decisions on our behalf. We all 40 crore people cannot take decisions sitting together. हम सब लोग एक साथ मिलके decision नहीं ले सकते. We need to have some leaders. We need to have some people who should be taking those decisions on our behalf. And that is where the concept of the state comes in. So, in 1946, when India was at the verge of independence, the Indians decided that we are going to appoint some individuals. We are going to choose some individuals who will take decisions which will be applicable on all of us, or which would be followed by us as law. This entity which is created to govern a territory and to exercise power over the people of that territory is called as state. The state. It is not to be confused with state which is Himachal Pradesh or Andhra Pradesh. They are only administrative units. वो तो administration के लिए हमने उसको छोटे छोटे भाग में divide कर दिया है in smaller parts. But as far as state is concerned, state is that political entity which has been created by the people of that country, by the people of that territory, which not only governs that territory, which governs the territory, but also takes decisions on behalf of the people of that land or people of that territory. That is what is called as state. So state includes government, state includes judiciary, state includes the legislature as well. There are 3 wings of the state. In modern day, we have 3 wings of the state. So पहले क्या होता था? एक राजा होता था, वही सब कुछ करता था. But over a period of time, people started to realize that this is a flawed model, because the king is so powerful that he makes the laws, that he executes the laws, and not only that, but he also decides the dispute between people. He is the judge also. This is too much power concentrated in one person alone. This is very, very dangerous. This can lead to a situation where we may have mad rulers and kings also. Aurangzeb, for example. Mad ruler, mad king, brought down the entire Mughal empire, right? So many others in the past as well. So you do not want such mad rulers to be ruling you. That is why it was decided that the state, which is this entity which would be created by the people to govern them, must not be providing all the powers to one person or to a group of individuals. Rather, the state, which is supposed to exercise powers over a particular territory and people of that territory, must have different wings, must have different divisions. Those 3 divisions of the state in modern times, one is the legislature. Legislature is that part of the state that makes laws, that tells what can be done, what cannot be done. Executive, or what we call as the government, is that part of the state that executes or implements the laws. उसका काम होता है जो लॉ बनाई है लेजिस्लेचर ने उसको इंप्लीमेंट करना. तो लॉ में लिखा होगा कि ट्रैफिक लाइट जंप करने पे 500 रुपए का जुर्माना है, 500 रुपीज फाइन फॉर जंपिंग द ट्रैफिक लाइट, रेड सिग्नल. This is what the law would mention. How that law would be executed would depend upon the executive or the government. Government would implement that law either through police or through some other mechanism. And then we have the third organ of the state, which is the judiciary, which is supposed to, one, if there is any dispute between them, resolve that. If there is any dispute between citizens and the state, resolve that. If there is any lack of understanding of what the legislature has mentioned in its law, the judiciary decides that. If there is any dispute between two citizens, that also is decided by the judiciary. So state is a political entity which has been created with the objective of governing a territory, of making rules for that territory, executing those rules, deciding the disputes. State includes legislature, executive and judiciary. कई बार हम state को government के साथ synonymously use कर लेते हैं. At times we say that state is government, but technically that is wrong. Why? Because government is a part of the state. Government or executive is a part of the state. So the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers is government. The Parliament is the legislature, and the Supreme Court, the High Courts in India are the judiciary. So there are three organs of the state, and the state is supposed to exercise powers over the territory and exercise powers over the citizens. Where is the state getting powers from? State को powers कहां से मिल रही हैं? Constitution से तो मिल रही हैं, but who has actually given powers to the state? Citizens. So citizens have actually given powers to the state that you please exercise power on us. Simply because a few people say that if all men were angels, then there was no government needed. अगर हम सब अगर पूरी तरीके से बिहेव कर सकते होते, एक तरीके से अच्छे से काम कर सकते होते, and if we would not have been exploiting others or misusing others, then there was no need for a law. There was no need for a government. But the fact is that we are not angels, and that is why we want someone to sit over us and to tell us what is supposed to be done. That is how we human beings are. And that is what the state does. But now imagine one thing, imagine one situation. Imagine that if the state itself, जिन लोगों को आपने चूज किया स्टेट में to govern the country, that itself becomes tyrannical, that itself starts doing things which are not wanted by you. And when you tell them that we don't want that to happen, they still do that. And they do not listen to you. They start taking away your rights only. Citizens created the state to rule the country, to rule India, and the state itself went rogue. The state said that I am going to impose exorbitant taxes on you. The state says that I am going to impose exorbitant or harsh laws on you. I am going to make really harsh laws. If any person is found to be yawning, then that person will be sentenced to death. No, many of you would be sentenced to death with that thing, because I could see a few yawning faces. Anyway, so the point is that harsh laws would be made, unjust laws would be made, harsh taxation would be made. If that happens, then what can the citizens do? Because now you have given the powers. See, this state is like that genie which has been created to govern you and to carry out the work for you as your servant. But if the servant itself ends up becoming the ruler and starts misusing the powers, then what will happen? That is where the problem is. Imagine a sport. We make a person as a referee or an umpire, and we tell him that you are going to now take care of running the game. If that umpire or that referee only ends up becoming biased, ends up becoming partial, ends up becoming partisan, then what would you do? That is the problem. That is the question that we need to ask ourselves. And that is where the concept of constitution comes in. Constitution is that law which has been created by the people, according to which the state is going to function. So, constitution is basically a law to ensure that the state does not start misusing its powers, or the state does what it was originally supposed to do, or the state does not start violating the basic rights of the citizens. That is what constitution is supposed to do. So constitution is supposed to serve a very important purpose. It is supposed to tell what would be the powers that would be exercised by the state. It is supposed to tell what would be the rights of the citizens. It is supposed to tell what would be the relationship between the state and the citizens. That is, how much can the state do and what it cannot do, what it can and what it cannot do, what restrictions it can impose on the rights of the citizens and what it cannot, how much powers it can exercise on the citizens and what it cannot. How the members of the state would be chosen would also be decided according to constitution. What would be the relationship between these three organs would also be decided by the constitution. So constitution tells us what is the objective of the state, what are the functions of the state, how the members of the state will be chosen, what are the powers of the state, what are limitations on the powers of the state, because you can't have a state having unlimited powers, then the entire purpose of having state will be defeated. What would be the rights of the citizens, what would be the limitations on the rights of the citizens that can be put by the state, how the disputes between citizens would be resolved, how the disputes between the organs of the state would be resolved. All of this is mentioned in the constitution. So constitution is the fundamental law of the land. Why fundamental? Because state is created as a result of constitution. What basically actually happens is citizens created constitution, constitution created state, and the constitution itself has defined all the other things according to which the state and the citizens are supposed to be governed. That is what Constitution of India is. So Constitution of India is that book, is that set of rules, laws that have been written to ensure that, so that the umpire does not become partisan, so that the players, if they break rules, what kind of punishment would be given to them, what would be the relationship between the umpire and the players, what all actions can the umpire take against the player. See, जैसे अब क्रिकेट मैच हो रहा है, किसी एक प्लेयर ने जो है कुछ गलत किया, या फुटबॉल मैच हो रहा है, किसी एक प्लेयर ने कुछ किसी को टांग मार के गिरा दिया फुटबॉल मैच के अंदर, है ना, बहुत होता है. अब किसी ने किसी को गिरा दिया, व्हाट कैन द अंपायर डू? दैट ऑल्सो वुड बी डिसाइडेड बाय द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. ऐसा तो नहीं है ना अंपायर जो है वहां से बंदूक निकालेगा और बोलेगा मारो इसे. What he can do is he can show him the red card and can tell him that you please get out of here. There is a limitation on the powers of the umpire as well. He does not have unlimited powers. Simply because वो umpire है, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है उसको चाटा मार देगा वो जाके. वो बोलेगा तूने इसको मारा, ले मैं तेरे को नहीं मारता हूं. So the point that you need to understand is that what are the powers of the umpire, what are the limitations on the powers of the umpire, what is the relationship between the umpire and the citizens, what is the work, what are the rights of the citizens, players क्या कर सकते हैं क्या नहीं कर सकते हैं, what is the relationship between different umpires. All of this is decided by the constitution of the country, right? So this is what is the basic meaning of the term state and the constitution, which we need to be aware of. You just write down a very basic definition of state and constitution, and then we'll call it a class. It's already 12:06. So you just write down the meaning of the term state first. State. पहले state लिखिएगा. You may write down concept of state. You may give the heading concept of state and just write down a few things. Please write down. In simple words, state is a political entity. In simple words, state is a political entity created to govern a territory, created to govern a territory and its people. Created to govern territory and its people. We may also say We may also say it is an independent political entity. We may also say it is an independent political entity. Occupying a defined territory. Occupying a defined territory. The members of whom are united together, members of that territory, the members of whom are united together, we have come together to resist external force, and to preserve internal order. एक्सटर्नल एग्रेशन रोकने के लिए और इंटरनल ऑर्डर मेंटेन करने, टू रेजिस्ट एक्सटर्नल फोर्स एंड टू प्रिजर्व इंटरनल ऑर्डर. That is what people form the state for, to ensure that someone from outside does not attack us and we have law, we have rule within, there is some kind of order within. You may write down a couple of more sentences. In modern democracies, the state has been divided into three organs. In modern democracies, the state is with a capital S. This is not your state, which is an administrative unit. In modern democracies, the state has been divided into three organs. First, legislature. In this, you may write down organ of the state that is responsible for making laws. Organ of the state that is responsible for making laws. Second, executive. Organ of the state concerned with executive. Organ of the state concerned with execution or implementation of laws. Organ of the state concerned with execution of laws. Third, judiciary. It interprets the laws. It is supposed to interpret or understand the meaning of the laws. It interprets the laws. And decides the disputes. Related to the law. So these are the three organs of the state. Now, one last thing, you may give the heading need and the concept of the constitution. The need and the concept of a constitution. Please write down. There exists an inherent danger. Of the misuse of the power. There exists an inherent danger of the misuse of the powers by the state. State again with a capital S. Misuse of the powers by the state against its citizens. Against its citizens. Therefore, comma, it is important to limit the powers of the state. Again, state is capital S. Therefore, it is important to limit the powers of the state. Powers of the state with the help of a set of rules. With the help of a set of rules according to which the state and the citizens should function. According to which the state and the citizens should function. This basic law, next line, this basic law, apart from defining the powers, and the limitations on the powers, of the state, again state with capital S. This basic law, apart from defining the powers and the limitations on the powers of the state, should also define the rights of the citizens. And the relationship between the state and the citizens. This rule book for governing a territory, is referred to as the Constitution. This rule book for governing a territory is referred to as the Constitution. Last line, apart from being the fundamental law, it also provides the basic philosophy of that nation. So how India should be, what India would be like, how the laws would be made, what kind of rights citizens would have, what the state can do, what the state cannot do, what the citizens can do, what they cannot do, what would be the relationship between the various organs of the state, everything is what is part of the philosophy. How people, those who practice X religion or Y religion or belong to X community or Y community or X gender or Y gender would be treated is what is defined in the Constitution of India. That's why the basic philosophy of the Constitution. So this is just a basic introduction into the Constitution of India and the concept of state. We have already overshot the time by 15 minutes. Just a couple of last quick things. One is that when you are making notes, my suggestion to you would be, and of course this is your personal choice, whatever you want to do, but my suggestion to you would be that when you are making notes, whether in notebook or on loose sheets or on tab or whatever, it's better that you leave some space on the side of your notes. You leave some blank space. Reason for that is either do that or after every few pages, maybe after 5 pages or something, leave 1 or 2 blank pages. Reason for that is I suggest to candidates that you should maintain one source of your preparation and not have multiple sources, multiple books, multiple notebooks. तो एक ही जगह पे अगर सब इंफॉर्मेशन रहेगा, बेटर रहेगा. When you would read newspapers, when you are reading books, if you are getting some new knowledge, new information, you could incorporate that on the side of your notes only instead of then having a separate notebook. So it's better कि आप वहीं पे सारी चीजें लिखें, तो सब चीजें एक जगह कोलेटेड रहेंगी. बाद में रिवाइज करना and to be able to actually replicate that in the exam would be much easier than having things all scattered over the place. So that is one thing which I would suggest to all of you. And second is, as I said, that of course we'll have the class tomorrow as well, but my request would be that you please start reading the NCERTs. NCERT पढ़ना start कर दीजिएगा आज से. कोशिश कीजिएगा जितना कर सकते हैं उतना कोशिश. If you begin well, आप लोगों के पास advantage है. This is not even the month of April, है ना? So you have got a certain advantage. Don't waste this time. A lot of times I see candidates with this approach कि अभी तो बहुत time है, अभी तो कुछ दिक्कत नहीं है, आज नहीं पढ़ते तो कल पढ़ लेंगे, कल नहीं तो परसों पढ़ लेंगे. This attitude is what I have seen has been the death knell for many candidates in this exam. Please be consistent. सबसे important चीज इस एग्जाम में consistency है. ये मैराथन है, तो मैराथन की तरह इसमें भागिएगा. स्प्रिंट की तरह भागेंगे. पहले दिन बहुत पढ़ लिया, अगले दिन फिर फुस हो गए, कोई फायदा नहीं है. Ensure that you are consistent in your preparation, right? So with that, we call off the first class and welcoming all of you again to Vision IAS and to classes on polity and constitution. We'll meet tomorrow. We'll have much more interesting discussion. We'll understand much more about the constitution, law, state, and whole of these other concepts. Also, usually after the classes, see, we have back-to-back classes. It may not be possible all the time to interact with you after the classes, but jab opportunity hogi, I stay back after the class a lot of times. You can come and meet me and we can discuss if there are any personal doubts, questions, etc. that you have. Today, I need to push because there is another class at another center. But whenever that opportunity is there, you can come. Feel free to have a discussion and we can discuss more. Okay. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.